and welcome to QPR Preview Show episode 23 this season, ahead of our annual defeat at Ewood Park. We'll preview the trip to Blackburn shortly, but we'll start looking back at Sunday's draw against Huddersfield. It had the big build-up, didn't it? But of course, the draw was then inevitable. It felt like a win could have changed our season, and of course, we failed to achieve that. But given we were behind going into stoppage time, perhaps we have to be happy with the draw. Did that goal save our season, Dave?
Yeah, I think so. We said last week it was a game they couldn't afford to lose, really, wasn't it? And in injury time, it looked like, well, season over. You couldn't really see them coming back from that. But they did well to get a point in the end. It's another one of them games, a bit like Plymouth at home and Sheffield Wednesday away, where we could have got ourselves out of trouble and we haven't really played well enough to do that. So it was a frustrating afternoon, but a draw was better than nothing. And, you've got to give them credit for keeping going and get that point because they looked dead and buried at 1-0, didn't they?
Yeah, I was actually disappointed with the performance. It was probably one of our worst performances under Martí Cifuentes at Loftus Road. But we have to try and find that positive that the equaliser still gives us hope. We didn't lose, and we said last week in the show, we must not lose, and at least we did that. I don't think the ref helped. He made the game very stop-start. He was blowing up for anything from the first minute, wasn't he? And you have to say fair play to Huddersfield as well. They stopped us playing. They pressed us high. I've got an image on the screen there now. We had possession before this image was there. Jack Colback is just hemmed in. He's being forced backwards. He's got 3 Huddersfield players right on him, another 3 Huddersfield players nearby. And that is just one example. But it meant that through the whole game, we couldn't get Dykes, Willock, or Chair involved, could we? Couldn't get anything going. There was no link-up play whatsoever. And is there a concern with that in these pressure games, you mentioned them, Sheffield Wednesday, Plymouth, Cardiff, now Huddersfield, we don't seem to be taking these opportunities and the pressure maybe gets to the players. It's not going to bode well for big games to come, though, is it?
No, it's not. I think there was a lot of factors in it. Like you said, it was very stop-start. The referee didn't help it. The game was slowed down a lot. Huddersfield pressed high and they kept winning the ball back from us. But we made our own problems, really. There were so many opportunities where Chair and Willock were making early runs from goal kicks, and Begovic just put the ball down, had a look around, and it's like, well, the chance is gone. You could throw it out to them quickly, knock it out to them, get on the break quickly, and we didn't do it. They were too slow with it, and then by the time they got the ball to Chair and Willock, they had 2-3 men on them. So it was really frustrating to watch. And like you say, Dykes was hardly in the game. They just hardly got touched the ball, I don't think, all game. It was just such a frustrating performance because it was a real opportunity for him. I don't know if they hyped it up a bit too much. They had to win it, and a few of the players froze. Cannon going off, I don't think helped us, although we weren't brilliant when he was on the pitch anyway. But yeah, it's just frustrating. But like we said, at least we got something from it. That's the only thing you can cling to, really. They haven't lost the game, and they're still. It's as you were, really. You're still a win away from getting out of it, and we've still got a lot of games left.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, on the back of it, us equalising, Darren Moore then was sacked. That probably doesn't do us any favours either, really, though, does it?
No, probably not. No, I was hoping he'd hang on a bit. He's not been there long, and I thought they were quite well set up against us. I didn't think they were that bad, Huddersfield. A draw was probably about right. Neither team were brilliant on the day, but they were well organised, and it seems from what their chairman was saying last week, he wants them to play quite open, expansive, attacking football, and everyone wants that, but you're not really going to get it down the bottom of this stage of the season. It's not going to be pretty to watch. Cifuentes talks about wanting to play a attractive style. I'm sure we're going to try and do that, but it's not going to be that attractive. It's about results, the position we're all in. And it's not a huge shock that they got rid of him, but it'd be interesting to see what they do next.
Yeah, and I don't understand how they think someone can come in now when the pressure's on to get points to try and change the whole way. And I agree with you. I thought they were set up quite well, but it sounded like he was going to probably get sacked no matter what the result was. I have the suspicion. And you'd imagine now a new manager going in there will probably get at least some of a bounce if they don't try and change things too drastically. And I just think for us to survive, we're going to need to catch someone like Plymouth, Stoke, Birmingham, Swansea, someone like that. I think if we just focus on Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday, we're going down. We need someone to maybe free fall like QPR did last season. And maybe if you look at the league form, Blackburn could be that side. And I know it's incredibly unlikely for QPR to win at Ewood Park, as I joked at the start, but with a win, we can bring Blackburn into the mix, and it puts pressure on their manager too. And Huddersfield this weekend play Sheffield Wednesday. So somebody near the bottom 3 is getting points. But it does also mean that we can escape the bottom three again if we win and Huddersfield lose. And of course, the Ewood Park record, I always dread going to Ewood Park. We haven't won there since 1999. It's well documented, 25 years. Can you believe as well that our last trip there was on the opening day of last season with Michael Beale in charge? It seems so long ago, but it was only the first game of last season. We've obviously had 3 managers since then. But overall, against Blackburn, it's only 5 wins for QPR in the last 34 games against them. Since 2000, it's 3 wins in 24. Can you find any hope, Dave?
You're not helping with the positivity here, are you, to be honest? Well, look, if you go on the record, then no, there's not much hope. We've got an awful record there. I remember every time I seem to go there, you just seem to lose 1-0. It's usually pretty dreadful. But they're not a great side. They've just lost one of their best players, has gone to Palace this week. They might lose more this week. They're not in great form. I think we're both down the bottom in the form table. You know, you've got to try and build it. We're 2 unbeaten now. You know, obviously we would have preferred to win last week, but we didn't lose. You've got to build on that and try and get a result there. You know, they're not world beaters. We played them earlier in the season. That's probably the lowest point I can remember in a home game. We were abysmal that day. So try and get, a bit of revenge for that, a bit of professional pride in yourself. The way we lost that day, go and show them you're not that bad. And they can, they can do it. Blackburn are not world beaters, but I'm not overly hopeful.
No, against QPR, they usually look like world beaters. That's the problem, isn't it? I think the hope from the fixture comes from their league form. You're talking about there. It's 1 win in the last 10 league games through December and January. The 7 without a win in the league coming into this, and that's 5 defeats in that span as well. They only drew at home with Rotherham and Huddersfield, so they're not someone we need to fear. They've also conceded the most goals in the league. When you consider those stats, if you take the name Blackburn and Ewood Park out of the equation, that's the type of opposition where if you want to beat the drop, that's the type of game you've got to target, isn't it?
It is the type of game we've got to target. And like you said before, they're one of the teams you've got to try and reel into towards. There's no point just focusing on Huddersfield. We need to get these other teams in there, and you're only going to do that by picking up a few wins. And this is an opportunity. It's as big a game as last week, really, because I think if Blackburn beat us, they're not really catchable anymore. You're going to have to go on a hell of a run to catch them. But if we can go there and beat them, we do drag them in towards us, and they're going to be getting a bit nervous because they've been quite comfortable most of the season, only just recently dropped down. So it's a big game for us, hopefully everyone's fit and they can go and get a result there.
Yeah, no, as much as last week was built up to be the 6-pointer, it's the same equation this weekend. If we lose and Huddersfield win, it's 6 points. So it's a big game. From a QPR perspective, we finally have a new signing this week, Michael Frey. Rumours originally that it was going to be a loan, but it's a permanent deal. What are your thoughts on him coming in?
I mean, I can't pretend to know much about him. I've seen the YouTube clips that have been going around, and he looks pretty good in them. But everyone looks good on a YouTube clip, don't they? It's promising. We've been saying for God knows how long we need a striker, and we finally got one. It gives us options up front. You can, it was telling last weekend there was no real forwards to bring off the bench. Was there when we needed a goal? They only really had Armstrong and Dykes. Dykes wasn't playing particularly well, so it gives us options up front. If he can come in and get 6-7 goals between now and the end of the season, that might be enough for us. But it's got to be a positive. It can't be any worse than what we've had up front the last few years, can it? You would hope.
No, if he comes in and scores 6 or 7 goals, I think he needs a statue outside Loftus Road with the way our goal scorers get goals. To me, he looks like a hard nut guy, doesn't he? You won't want to mess with him in some of the clips you've seen of him. Main thing is, like you say, it's just options, isn't it? And it takes maybe some of the pressure off Lyndon Dykes because we know he's never going to be an out-and-out goal scorer, but the pressure is always on him to try and score, and he's not capable of doing that. And we saw against Huddersfield, it's more an issue that there's no direct replacement. So every time we want to take off Dykes or Armstrong, it forces us to change our shape, doesn't it? And then we become disjointed. We've spoken about that before. We've also been flogging Sinclair Armstrong to death. He's been being made to do 90 minutes. And whilst he's getting fitter, it'll be good to have another option and give him some rest when we can. So I think it just works. Hopefully he can get the goals, though. That's the main thing he needs to do for us. And of course, the big team news this week for QPR is the inevitable 2-game suspension for Sam Field. And it leaves us so lacking in midfield options. Andre Dazelle, even Stephen Duke McKenna out on loan. So it's going to have to be Jack Colback and Dixon Bonner in midfield. Beyond that, What have we got?
Not a lot really. There's a horror in the under 23s, but he's injured at the minute, I think. Hopefully they're going to bring someone in before the deadline. I think that's what they need. They need a forward and a midfield player to stand a chance. I think they do need to get a midfield player in. But if they don't, they are going to be short, and Colback's only one yellow away from a 2-game ban as well. So they're in massive trouble if he gets a booking on the weekend. But I would have thought it'd be Dixon Bonner and Colback this weekend. He has tried a Doma in the middle, hasn't he? Wasn't a roaring success. I'm not sure we should be doing that again. But he's very limited in options in there unless he moves Chair into the middle.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're talking when there's still 24 hours of the transfer window left. Some people will be watching this when it's already closed, so they'll know more than we do. But to me, the wording of Michael Frey's official announcement, there was lots of references to FFP, suggesting he's even taken a pay cut to come here. I'm not convinced as it stands that we're going to bring anyone else in. And we'll maybe have to see Rafferty Pedder given a chance if Colback got injured. It's going to be, or if he gets his suspension, like you talked about as well. We are there down to the bare bones in midfield. But they seemed obviously quite happy to do that because they've let Dazelle and Duke McKenna go out on loan. They must have something up their sleeve potentially with that. We also have to assume Reggie Cannon maybe is going to be touch and go for this one. Obviously, you mentioned he went off after 10 minutes against Huddersfield. And it begs the question, doesn't it? What's happening with Osman Kakai?
Yeah, I don't know if he's injured or what, because he wasn't even on the bench last week, was he? It was a bit of an odd one. I saw him in some of the pictures at the training ground on the website today. So maybe he was out injured, but wasn't an odd one because when Drew come on last week, we were all like, well, where's Kakai? I was like, oh yeah, he's not even on the bench. This is kind of where you need him to come in. He's okay cover for Cannon if Cannon is injured, but hopefully Cannon was just a precaution and he'll be okay this weekend. They've had a full week to prepare, so hopefully he'll be fully fit.
Yeah, Cannon was in the pictures of released as well, so that made me think maybe he's okay. And Aaron Drew performed well. I know it probably sounds harsh, but it always terrifies me the idea of trying to win games with him, and he should only be a stopgap, which is what he was. He's obviously willing and he gives his best, but teams are going to target him as Huddersfield actually did in the second half, didn't they? Aside from that, I don't expect to see any other QPR changes. You'd assume Michael Frey will be on the bench. Then it's just the weekly question of Smith or Willock, and we'll see where he goes with that. We have to mention this week, I feel, set pieces again, because Sorba Thomas's delivery for Huddersfield compared to our delivery, it was like night and day. And Kenneth Powell, he seems to be back on them at all the set pieces again after getting taken off them, but they were just as bad as ever, weren't they? Got to the stage where I'm praying someone else comes over to take them when you see we get in a corner or a free kick. Surely we have to try something different, whether it's plan C, D, E, whatever it may be.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, like you say, their corners with deliveries are really good, but we defended them quite well. But at 0-0, we had 3 or 4 corners and opportunities to get in front. We weren't playing well, but we had chances. The corners were always so poor. They were either first man or just too deep. Really disappointed. Surely someone else can take a corner rather than Powell or Chair. And there must be someone. I mean, I thought Dixon Bonner took a few decent ones against Watford a few weeks ago. But yeah, they need to try something else. It's Powell on set pieces just isn't working, and it's such a important part of the game. That's where we're not free scoring team, are we? We need to start scoring a few more from free kicks and the corners.
It's probably part of the problem, isn't it? It probably links to why we have scored so few goals. I think Dixon Bonner could be maybe on them now because he's obviously going to be starting these games with Field out suspended. So he'll either take them, or maybe they just need to start taking them short and try something different because it just doesn't work. Prediction time then. Will it be the annual defeat at Ewood Park?
I'm going to go with a draw for this one, which is not really ideal for either team. Yeah, I can't see us winning there because we never win at Ewood Park. But I think we'll get something. I think it'll be a score draw in this one.
Yeah, they've only drawn 3 games all season, so maybe they're due another one. And I say it most weeks because it's true. I just can't see QPR outscoring teams, and Blackburn do like to score a few goals. I mean, their striker, Smodix, I think it is, isn't it? 21 goals he's got in all competitions. QPR of a squad have only got 27. Just shows you how hard it is for us to outscore teams. It's a tough ask, I'd say, to do it, given our record there. I'd probably take a draw like you're talking about and hope maybe Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday draw 2, and then it's just status quo and maybe our best hope this week that everything stays as it was. It's a double header next week as we'll welcome Norwich to Loftus Road, and then we have a trip to Stoke in midweek after that. We will be back to preview them. Thank you for watching as always. Do comment and tell us what your predictions are. and come on, you arse.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.